It was New Year's Eve, and 16-year-old Lily was home alone for the first time. Her parents had gone to a party in the next town, leaving her with strict instructions: lock the doors, don't answer for strangers, and call if anything strange happened. The house felt unusually quiet as the wind howled outside, making the windows rattle. Snow blanketed the yard, glowing under the dim streetlights. Lily wrapped herself in a blanket, trying to focus on the horror movie playing on TV. But even the fake screams on screen didn't seem as scary as the silence pressing in from every corner of the house. She checked her phone. 9:30 p.m. Her parents wouldn't be back until after midnight. Suddenly, there was a sound. Thud. It came from the kitchen. Lily froze. It's just the wind, she told herself. But the sound came again. Thud, thud. Heart pounding, she tiptoed to the kitchen, gripping her phone like a weapon. The lights were still on, and everything seemed normal, except for the back door. It was open, swinging slightly in the cold wind. She rushed to close it, locking it tightly. But as she turned back to the living room, she saw something that made her blood run cold. Footprints. Wet, snowy footprints led from the door to the stairs. Someone was in the house. Lily backed away, her hands trembling. She dialed her mom's number, but there was no signal. Panic set in as she tried calling again, but the phone beeped uselessly. Thump. This time, the sound came from upstairs. Lily grabbed a kitchen knife and slowly climbed the stairs, each creak of the wood making her flinch. She tried to stay quiet, but her breathing was loud in the stillness. The footprint stopped at her bedroom door. It was slightly open. She pushed the door open with the tip of the knife, her hands shaking. The room was dark, but moonlight streamed through the window. Everything looked normal at first glance. Then she saw it, a shadow in the corner, crouched low to the ground. "Who's there?" Lily whispered, her voice trembling. The shadow didn't move. Lily stepped back, her foot hitting something on the floor. She looked down and saw her stuffed bear, one she hadn't seen in years, sitting upright, its button eyes glinting. The shadow stood up. It was tall, too tall to be human. Its face was pale and featureless, with black holes where the eyes should have been. Lily screamed and slammed the door shut, running down the stairs as fast as she could. She grabbed her keys and bolted out the front door into the freezing night. She ran to her neighbor's house, pounding on the door until Mr. Harris, an elderly man, opened it. "What's wrong, Lily?" he asked. "There's someone in my house," she cried. Mr. Harris grabbed his flashlight and went with Lily back to her house. The front door was still wide open, but the house was silent. They searched every room, but there was no one there. The footprints were gone, and so was the stuffed bear. "Are you sure you saw someone?" Mr. Harris asked, frowning. "Yes," Lily insisted. But she could see he didn't believe her. She spent the rest of the night at Mr. Harris's house, too scared to go back home. When her parents returned, they found nothing unusual, no footprints, no open door, no shadowy figure. But Lily knew what she had seen. And every New Year's Eve after that, she made sure she was never alone again. Mayank worked as a branch manager in a multinational company. One day, Mayank got delayed leaving the office for home. Being winter, night had fallen quickly, and it was already quite cold. As Mayank walked along the road, he suddenly heard a voice. "Stop!" Mayank stopped right there and looked back. But there was no one behind him. Then he heard the voice again. "Look ahead." As soon as Mayank looked ahead, he saw something shiny on the ground. Mayank rushed to it and found that it wasn't an ordinary object but a glowing diamond. He picked up the diamond in his hand. Its shine filled Mayank with joy. But Mayank had no idea that this was no ordinary diamond but a mystical one. Suddenly, a voice came from the diamond, saying, "If you want more diamonds, dig this ground. There are many diamonds hidden beneath." Mayank was thrilled. He put the diamond in his pocket and began digging the ground. After digging about 2 feet, Mayank screamed in fear and lost his balance, falling to the ground. In the pit, instead of diamonds or gems, there was a severed human head. Suddenly, the head began to float in the air and said, "Don't be afraid. I won't harm you. I will give you lots of diamonds and jewels. Just listen to me carefully and follow me wherever I go." Then the head floated into the air and moved toward the forest. After walking about a kilometer, the head stopped, and Mayank stopped too. The head said to Mayank, "Beneath this ground lies a treasure trove of diamonds, pearls, and jewels. Start digging here." Mayank was delighted and began digging the ground. But as he dug deeper, instead of finding diamonds or pearls, he unearthed the severed torso of the same head. The head said, "Now you have to do one last thing. After that, I will make you immensely wealthy. You need to bring me a pot of blood from somewhere." Mayank hesitated and said, "A pot of blood? But where will I get that?" The head replied, "Come with me." The terrifying face led Mayank a little further to a spot where they saw a man walking by. The head said, "Kill that man and bring his blood." Mayank was terrified and said, "No, no, I can't do this. I cannot kill someone. If you don't do it, I will curse you with a terrible fate, and your entire life will turn into hell." With folded hands, Mayank pleaded, "Please forgive me. If I kill him, the police will arrest me, and I'll end up in jail." The head used its mystical powers to conjure a knife and a pot and, with a furious expression, said, "If you don't do this for me, I will kill your entire family." Out of desperation, Mayank killed the man and took his blood to the head. The head was overjoyed to see the blood and said, "Pour this blood on my body." Following the head's instructions, Mayank poured the blood onto the body. Within moments, the severed head joined the body. Seeing this, Mayank was terrified. He watched as the ghost came back to life and began laughing loudly in a horrifying voice. "You've made a grave mistake by bringing me back to life," the ghost said. "Now, I won't just kill you but will destroy this entire city." Mayank was so scared he couldn't utter a word. He started running to save his life. But the ghost leaped and knocked Mayank to the ground, saying, "I'm starving. Now I will feast on your flesh." As the ghost moved forward to devour him, its head suddenly separated from its body again. Mayank couldn't comprehend what had just happened. When he turned around, he saw an gory saint standing there. The saint said, "When I saw you carrying that blood, I realized something terrible was about to happen. So, I followed you here and used my mystical powers to destroy the ghost again. Now you can go home without any worries. You are safe now." Even today, whenever Mayank recalls this incident, it sends shivers down his spine. Nestled in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains stood a decrepit manor known as Blackthorn House. It had been abandoned for decades, a hollow shell of its former grandeur. Locals avoided the place, whispering tales of ghostly apparitions and the sound of eerie whispers emanating from within. Despite the warnings, a group of 4 college friends, Emily, Alex, Jake, and Sarah, decided to spend the weekend exploring it. They were avid fans of the supernatural and sought to document any paranormal activity for their online channel. The drive to Blackthorn House was uneventful, but as they neared the property, the atmosphere grew oppressive. The surrounding forest was unnaturally quiet, devoid of birdsong or rustling leaves. The sky, once clear, darkened with thick clouds. The manor itself loomed ahead like a skeletal giant, its windows dark and empty, like lifeless eyes. "This is it," Emily said, excitement mingled with unease in her voice. She adjusted the camera strap to her shoulder. "Looks like something out of a horror movie," Alex joked, though his nervous chuckle betrayed his apprehension. The group stepped inside, the old wooden door groaning on its hinges. The air was thick with the scent of mildew and decay. Dust motes danced in the beams of their flashlights, and the floor creaked underfoot. The grand foyer was filled with broken furniture, peeling wallpaper, and cobwebs that stretched like gossamer curtains. "Let's split up," Jake suggested, eager to explore. "We'll cover more ground that way." They paired off. Emily and Alex took the upper floors, while Jake and Sarah explored the basement. The upper floor. As Emily and Alex climbed the grand staircase, their footsteps echoed ominously. The air grew colder with each step, and a faint whispering sound began to follow them. "Do you hear that?" Emily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex nodded, his face pale. "It's probably the wind," he said, though the windows were sealed shut, their glass fogged with grime. They entered what appeared to be a bedroom. A massive canopy bed dominated the space, its curtains tattered and swaying as if moved by an unseen breeze. A cracked mirror hung on the wall, reflecting their distorted images. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from behind them. They spun around to find the door had slammed shut. Alex rushed to open it, but it wouldn't budge, spreading across its face. Emily turned her attention back to the mirror. Her reflection seemed wrong. While she stood still, her reflection tilted its head unnaturally, a sinister grin spreading across its face. "Alex," Emily's voice trembled. Before Alex could respond, the mirror shattered, and a blood-curdling scream filled the room. The basement. Jake and Sarah descended the creaky stairs into the basement, their flashlights piercing the inky darkness. The air was damp and carried a faint metallic tang. "Smells like blood," Sarah said, wrinkling her nose. "You're imagining things," Jake replied, though his grip on the flashlight tightened. The basement was a labyrinth of narrow corridors and small rooms filled with rusted tools, broken crates, and ominous stains on the floor. They came across a door covered in strange symbols carved into the wood. "This looks promising," Jake said, pushing it open. Inside was a small chamber, its walls lined with shelves filled with jars containing strange, unidentifiable objects suspended in murky liquid. At the center of the room was a wooden table, and on it lay an open book. The pages were filled with incomprehensible text and disturbing illustrations of rituals and demonic entities. Sarah flipped through the book. "This is some serious occult stuff," she murmured. As she turned the pages, the room grew colder, and the faint sound of chanting filled the air. The jars on the shelves began to rattle, and the symbols on the door glowed with an eerie red light. "Let's get out of here," Jake said, pulling Sarah away from the table. But as they turned to leave, the door slammed shut, and the chanting grew louder. Shadows began to creep along the walls, moving with a life of their own. One of the shadows detached itself and took on a humanoid form, its glowing red eyes fixed on them,